Today we are going to talk about the concept of encircling invalid data in the cell, right? So in the last class we have talked about how to do the validation with the data, right? So that means we have discussed validation rule on particular data. So in order to understand it better, so we are going to have the data out here. So first of all, understand this particular data. So this is the data of a particular company called Book Tracers Incorporation. It has the all employee basic salary details. So as a details, what you can notice out here, in this particular worksheet, every employee has their own employee ID, employee name, basic salary, DA, HRA, conveyance, taxable income, income tax, provident fund, and the net income, right? So this kind of data has been prepared by the regional office and it has been sent to the head office for the further processing. But as a member of the head office, first of all, we should cross check the data. We have to validate the data whether the data is perfect or not. In order to validate the data, we have to apply the concept of data validation, which already we have discussed. Obviously, if we are going to talk about the employee salary details, so employee salary cannot be negative. In a worst case, let's say if the employee has not joined the office for an entire month, so obviously their basic salary can be zero. That means the as a basic salary, there won't be any basic salary. So for the particular employee, it can be zero. Based on that, all other component can be marked as zero. It cannot be negative. But we suspect that the data entry operator who has prepared the data, they might have done some mistake. They might have entered the negative value. So in order to verify the negative value, we have to do the data validation with the encircling of invalid data. Maybe if I say that you have to cross check all negative value, so we can go through each and every cells, clear, by looking at, and if we can find there is a negative value, there is another negative value, here also we are having a negative value. But this kind of process can happen only for if you have the record for 20 and 30. But let's say if my company is an international company and so many employees are working in my organization and there the volume of the employee could be 50,000. So it's very difficult to check out all 50,000 records manually. So obviously Excel is providing this such kind of tool where we can validate our data, and if the data found invalid, that can be encircled. So in order to perform it, we will understand how we can do that. So first of all, we have to highlight all the data which is available on the Excel worksheet. So first of all, I'll highlight all the data here. I'll highlight all the required data where I wanted to perform validation. So just now we have highlighted it. Then after highlighting, we have to go to the tab called data, right? Within this data tab, we are having a one group that is called data tools, and within the data tools we have to go for option called data validation. Where is the marker? Option called data validation. Within a data validation, if I click on this, right, we are getting all the option. So firstly, we have to validate our data. So I'll be selecting on data validation. The moment you go for the data validation, you get a dialog box like this, in which we are having three tabs: setting, input message, error alert. So we have to do some sort of setting out here. So obviously if you look at your data has not a whole number, it is having decimal values also. So here in allow combo box, I have to select, obviously we are not going to select any value, we have to go for decimal because it has the decimal value. Then as a data, I wanted to check my valid data would be, the data could be 0 or more than 0. These are the valid data. Let's say if certain employee has not gone for the office for entire month, so their salary would be 0. It cannot be negative, right? It cannot be negative. If the data is negative, that means the data is wrong. So what we can do is, we can select an option called greater than or equal to, right? This is my criteria, and the minimum value has to be, it has to be 0, right? So these things, this kind of setting we have to perform out here. And then obviously there are two more tabs which we performed in the last class, called input message and error alert. I will not select the input message because we are not allowing any user to enter the data. While inputting the data by the user, we can go for that option which we have done last time. So since the user is not going to enter any value, so there is no chance of getting error. So we will not work on input message and error alert. My task is partially over out here, so I'll click on OK. Once this is done, then finally again we have to go for which option, tell me? Data tools group, and within this data validation, good. And then there is an option called invalid, circle invalid data. The moment we will click on circle invalid data, you can see the good things. All invalid data has been encircled. So now we will focus on only those data which has been marked within this particular circle. And if you can notice out here, only the negative values has been marked out here. You can scroll down your entire content. So all contents are being marked which are invalid, right? But sometime what happens, let's say if I find that this data is minus, right? But actually we have cross-checked my manual papers and we found that there should not be negative value, it should be the positive value. So what we can do is, we can go there and we can do the correction. The moment I do the correction, earlier it was minus 1715, I am going to remove this minus. The moment I remove this minus, that encircled has been gone off from there. Clear? If you change the data automatically, either your cell will be encircled or it will be, if you correct the data, that circle will go off. But always this kind of circle will not be feasible all the time on the screen. So for the timing, if you want to remove all encircled data, so again we can go for data validation. Within this we are having clear validation circle. The moment you click on this, your entire circle is gone off. It doesn't mean that your validation is over. Still you have the validation which you have set on that, and whenever you want to see your encircled data again we have to go for data validation, and we can click on circle invalidate, encircle invalid data, that will be coming up. So this is going to help us to quickly identify the data which is invalid as per our condition. Here you can have a different kind of condition also. Clear? Not always like this. Let's say different situation. I want that the basic salary of the employee should not be less than $2,000 as per the company policy. It should not be less than $2,000 and it should not be greater than $50,000, right? So that kind of validation also we can perform. So instead of going through the greater than equal to, we can select the option called between. We can select the option between, and there I have to give the range of $2,000 to $50,000. There also we can perform such kind of operations. So this is the concept which we have learned just now. So that can be applied on any situation or every situation. So this is a very important or interesting tool provided by Advanced Excel in order to do the data analysis, right? So next, in the next class we are going to talk about some another concept, right? I think this concept is clear to everyone.
Yes, sir.
If anybody has any queries, you can ask your queries. If anybody has any queries, please raise your, yes, you have one query.
So what about the dollar sign?
See, dollar sign, since assuming that my data is available in the form of dollar, if you want to change it into the rupee symbol, that is also possible. So what we can do is, we can select the data, right? We can select the data like this, and after selecting the data, we have to format the cell. So how we can format the cell? Just we do the right click on the cell and we can select format cells. Within a format cell, it is a kind of a currency related data. So I'll be selecting currency, and within a currency, you can notice out here the symbol. This is the Indian currency. We are getting it here, and I wanted to get maximum 2 decimal places. So just by selecting this, if I say OK, so all dollar is getting changed to rupees, which you wanted, I suppose. I hope I have answered your queries. If anybody else are having any queries, you can come forward with a query. Thank you very much for having this class, and tomorrow in the next class, in the next day, we are going to talk about the conditional formatting on the Excel. Thank you.